morning, everyone. Welcome to Make Drop Great Again. May I interject something before we start?
Yes.
Okay. This is a formula to get to 16 rounds. And if one's already at 16 rounds, we can reinvent ourselves every day and get back to 16 rounds. Because in such an endeavor, we have to endure the ups and downs of life and different levels of energy we might have. So, just a few thoughts. One is that it requires what Prabhupada describes in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the verse Prayana Kale Manasat Shalena Bhakta Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Ruvar Bhati Madesha Samyak Satam Param Purusham Paiti Vidyam. Prabhu, can you move to make more of a circle-like?
Here, maybe sit over here. And in that verse, Krishna's mentioning that there's a spiritual strength he calls yoga balena. It's a strength that comes from yoga. Balena means strength, bala. And he mentions, does Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that one must practice some kind of yoga throughout one's lifetime in order to have the spiritual strength, the wherewithal at the time that one leaves one's body to be able to fix one's mind on the Supreme. And then he mentions chakra yoga and other types of yoga, and then he said, of course, bhakti yoga is the best. And there are ways of developing spiritual strength. So that's necessary. And then the first step in helping someone get to 16 rounds, or helping ourselves reinvent ourselves every day, is to remember the glories of the holy name, or to learn about the glories of the holy name. And there are several concepts. One is that there's nothing else to be had. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Nam bina kichu nahi ko aura choda bhuvanamaje. That there's nothing else to look for anywhere in the universe, because everything comes from the holy name. It's non-different from Krishna, because Krishna and his name are non-different. And Krishna fulfills all desires. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of Krishna's names is Vañchatītāta. Vañchatītāta indicates that if the living entities simply remember the Lord, he is inclined to shower all benedictions upon them, thus satisfying their desires and removing their miseries. What do you think? You like Vañchatītāta? And then the Sri Upanishad Mantra 8 says, such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desires since time immemorial. So there's a way to cultivate this awareness that Krishna and his name are non-different. There's nothing else to be had except for the holy name. And Krishna fulfills all desires, more than we can expect. Another name of Krishna is Vañchatītāta. Atita means above, or to rise above, and vañchā means desire. So whatever desire we have, Krishna can fulfill it above what we can expect. So this is a first stage. I'll mention the other ones later, but a first stage of cultivation, or helping someone understand the importance of chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa, and that is that we needn't go anywhere else, just to focus the mind on the holy name. Does anybody have any reflection from that before we start chanting? Or just put it another way, could somebody please reflect what you just heard before we start chanting? Yes, Bhakti Jimmy.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Yesterday, after the amazing lunch feasts, Mridanga Prabhu made an amazing comment about the Mishti Dahi and the gulabjamins or rasgullas. He said, this is so amazing. If we're having such a blast, if we're enjoying so much, just taking this prashadam, then imagine how wonderful the holy name tastes. It's as sweet or even sweeter than this. And the Paramahamsas, they're just feasting 24 hours a day. It's so sweet, it's so delicious that they just can't stop chanting. So they're just feasting, taking an even greater feast than the feast we had yesterday. So I really love that comment from Prabhu.
Thanks. Leave it to Bhakti Jimmy to bring it to the next level. And Briyat Madanga Prabhu, of course. One more, please. Just something to reflect. Yes.
I kind of found it very all-encompassing, the glories of the name that you put it, because if we understand Gita, then we understand Didami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam. If we understand Krishna, then that means that we worship him. And so really not going anywhere else is a sign that we actually have real understanding, both of the name of Krishna and just of everything else in relation. So I thought that was a really powerful point.
Haribo. Okay. If there's nothing else, let's try chanting. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Just for a minute. Step 2 is making a sankalpa. Also, sense of making a stand, take a stand to chant every day. And some of the ways that facilitate that are feeling helpless. The idea of a kinchana means I don't have any support except for Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned several times about begging. I looked up the word beg, and it means to ask earnestly out of necessity. And if there's a way that one feels helpless, then one can beg out of a feeling of necessity. I really need something. This is sound advice from Bhaktivinoda Thakur that gives us the right attitude to chant. And then also remembering Devahuti at 325.7, she mentions the reason that she wants to hear from Kapila Deva is because she's sick of the disturbance caused by the senses. And this idea of feeling sick and tired, like I'm sick and tired of this, and enough's enough. And then finally, it's often that we complain and tell our problems to many different kinds of people. Is that true? Yes. But most of them can't do anything about them. But I read Prabhupada said that you should bring your problems to Krishna and tell him that I'm being tossed in the waves of the ocean of material existence this way and that way. Because he said you can describe them to Krishna. So, as a way of chanting prayerfully, remembering that Krishna is the only source of help, and just bringing to bear all one's sense of not only helplessness, but also the ways in which we're being overcome by the material nature, and just putting it before Krishna, and just remembering He's the one who can help us. I put all this under the way of making a sankalpa and making a stand. It all sounds counterintuitive because then we're declaring ourselves helpless, even though making a stand sounds as if we're declaring ourselves independently strong, but our strength comes from Krishna. So these are a few ideas that I extracted from the Shastra. Feeling helpless, which means, and then begging, asking earnestly out of necessity, remembering that we're sick and tired of being assaulted or being under the tyranny of the senses, and finally complaining. Take your complaints to the right desk and offer them to Krishna. Not complaining against him, but just to complaining against perhaps my own ineptitude at taking advantage of His mercy and just the way I'm being tossed by the ways of material nature, as Prabhupada put it. Please give 4 reflections. 2 from this side of the room and 2 from that side of the room. On your mark, get set, go. 3, 2, 1. Kesha. Okay. Brihat.
Hare Kṛṣṇa. When you mentioned bringing our problems to Krishna, I find this helps to integrate my life with my japa. Not that I'm just chanting japa and then my whole life is on the side, but when thoughts come into my mind, especially disturbing ones, then I just bring it to Krishna, and then it's seamless. Whatever is happening in my mind, I can turn that and offer it to Krishna, and it becomes fuel actually for emotional chanting.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Like 1, 2, yes.
I'm reminded of a quote I saw on Pinterest once, and it said, pray about it as much as you think about it. And I think that a lot of times we go down spirals where we overthink, and it's just like tossing and turning over the same thing in our mind all the time. And I'm especially like prone to this. I find that I just like have a roulette wheel of worries, and it's like the same 5 worries. It's like, which one are we worrying about today? But when I pray about it, it's like immediate stop, because how much can you pray about it? Even if I pray about it for like 20 minutes, at one point I do end up finding peace with the problem. And so instead of just overthinking about it, when you do take that problem to Krishna and you just hand it to Him and you pray about it, you yourself find some sanity and peace.
Thank you. Very helpful. Okay, Benny.
Hare Kṛṣṇa. I was some time ago. I listened to a recording of Tamal Krishna Goswami, and before chanting, every time his japa, he was going into this mood of begging, saying, "Oh, my dear Lord, like I'm here in this material world, and it's my fault, and I have no other choice to beg your mercy, your help." And yes, I was trying to meditate on this and trying to get in this mood of just trying to surrender on Krishna in order to get.
Nice. Remembering Tamal Krishna Maharaj and preparing for japa. Oh, yes, Tulsi.
I'm reminded of something that Sukeshri Mataji said when we were in Puri. It was about attentive chanting, and she mentioned that, Krishna is listening to you, and so like you have to, if He's listening to you, then you also have to be attentive partner in that conversation. And something that I was thinking about earlier today is that like He's my best friend, and like if you have a best friend, like you want to tell him everything in your life, and so like Brihat Mridanga Prabhu was saying, like you have your problems, like you want to share that with him. And so basically it's like a combination of what Mataji and Prabhu were saying. It's like if he's your best friend, you want to tell him about your problems, and usually he sends an idea back about what you should do. So I find that really helpful when I'm chanting japa.
Thanks, Tulsi. And just one last point about begging. I noticed that I'm most inclined to give to beggars that seem genuinely needy. Sometimes I see beggars I've seen a lot of beggars around Govardhan, going around on Parikram. Some of them have this fake stuff they put on their leg or arm that looks like it's like got a contusion. I found out from some of the locals, they get this kind of gel and they put it on there and it looks like they've been lacerated or something, and they kind of lie there going, And when I found out that they were actually not injured, but they were just faking it, then I wasn't so inclined. I just kind of walk around them. But sometimes I see those that are really helpless, or really in need. If we can perceive that, or when I do, I feel compelled. And just the more genuine I can be in begging from Krishna that I need your help, if I can really feel it, then he's more inclined to give his guidance and special mercy. So we just have a few more minutes to chant. Let's try it for the next 7 minutes. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita. That brings us to the end of the japa circle. We're starting Guru Puja, correct? Yes. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Vañchatītāta, Shri Harinam Prabhu, if you so desire, please instill in us yoga balena so we can daily finish our 16 rounds with gusto. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please say Hare Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Vañchakārpatarishta, kripa sindhubheva cha pati